It's the TCTV training show. The TCTV training show. They're learning how to shoot and learning how to light, learning how to mic and edit right. These are TCTV's finest in training, doing their best with focusing and framing. It's the TCTV training show. The TCTV training show. You're watching TCTV. It's the training show. The TCTV training show. They will get better.
So with Photoshop, the program should be here on the dock down there, but if it's not, you can go to your Finder and you can go to Applications, and there we see it right in here, Adobe Photoshop CS 5.1. So we launched that, and I think I'm already got it launched, so I'm just going to click here to get it back up, and here we are. So when you start a new project, and I'm gonna assume that we're all going to be using this for television. And so in here, when you open up the new, did you see how I did that? I went to File, New, and then this pops up. And then we can name it. But we can go to these presets here, default Photoshop size, and we can change it to film and video. And then the size here, which defaults to NTSC, and we don't want that anymore. We want to do high def. But I guess I'm going to go with, you know, either one of these actually is probably going to just be fine. So I'm gonna name this. Let's call it Second Saturday. There we go, and we'll say OK, and then it opens up a screen for us. Okay. So now let's just pretend that we've got the new CG in the control room that will accept Photoshop files and everything. And so let's just pretend that we're making a graphic for the studio and making a lower third, making something, or it could be an intro or something, you know, some kind of text. But these Photoshop files will work with the new CG system in the control room. So right now we're starting off with a white background, and we have our tools are over here on the side, and we start with the top tool, which is this little you know, arrow with a plus next to it. That's for moving elements around, and this one is for selecting elements, and this one is also for selecting things. You can circle, and anytime you see these dotted lines like that, or these dashes, that means you've got something selected. And watch this, I can make that selection here. There's a menu item up here called Select, and I can inverse that. So now you see the dotted lines around the side. I'm actually selecting the outside of that circle, not the inside of that circle. I'll just show you with the gradient. If I put this gradient down here, you'll see that it fills the gradient with the part that I had selected. And I actually had the reverse of this selected. So it didn't do anything with the part that I had unselected, basically. So I'm going to undo that, and you do that by hitting Apple Z. And now I'm going to do Apple D, which is a command I find really important in Photoshop, because you do a lot of selecting of things, and whenever you have those dotted lines, you've got things selected. So you're only going to be able to work inside the part that's selected. But when I put Command D, it unselects everything, so like nothing's selected, and that's important. So now if I do that gradient, it's going to fill the whole screen, you know, with that gradient. So we're jumping ahead here to gradient, but we've got some other tools here. One that we're really going to use is the text tool, and that's down here. All right, so I'm going to type in Second Saturday, and that is really, really small, right? So that's not going to do us any good. We need to make it bigger. And up here are your tools for sizing the font. Here's your font. Here's the mode of your font, you know, your bold, italic, whatnot. And then here's your size. Now if I change this size, it doesn't do anything because I actually have to have that text selected. So to select the text, I have to like drag the mouse over it. And now that I have it selected, I can move that to 72 and we can see it. But instead of like going to these presets here, I can actually just type in a size into that little space right there. So I'm going to type in like 200. Yeah, 200. Oops, I misspelled Saturday. That's not good. Okay, and I told you about this tool up here, which is the moving tool. You can move things around, so I'm going to move that to get it centered. And then I'm going to need to get in order to spell Saturday right, I'm going to have to go back to my text tool. And then I'm going to have to click in here and put an A. There we go. So now we've got second Saturday. And I'm going to highlight it again and maybe play around with the fonts just to show you how that works. You can see a sample of the fonts on the side of the font. And so let's see, what looks like a good second Saturday font? Maybe this bold one. And that's not so bad. And maybe I will put a carriage return in here and delete that space. And then what I might want to do is center that. So you'll see everything, I can hit carriage return and I can type on the next line, you know, second Saturday today, you know, something like that. So, you know, your text can be multiple lines. One thing you need to know about, there's your centering and your justification tools are right here. So you've got, you know, your font, your style of the font, your size of the font. Anyway, I'm going to center it. So after I centered it, I have to drag it back over. There we go, second Saturday. There's a lot of cool things you can do with the letters here. Right now we're just using a black, you know, color. And that's because down here it shows our foreground color is black and our background color is white. Now if you wanted to change the color of the font, you can do that by, well, first you have to grab your text, you have to highlight it again, then it's actually up here. So I can change it up here. I can change it to red, or, you know, or blue. But what I'd really like to do is put a texture on it. And let me show you how, in white we can't see. But I can do a texture, and this is a fun thing that you can do with fonts. And I'm going to introduce you now to the layers menu. And the layers is really important because one thing we want to do with this graphic, if we were going to put it on a video, is we'd probably want it to be see-through. We'd want the lettering to come up over video possibly. And in order to do that, we need to use an alpha channel. And when you have an alpha channel going in this program, it's going to look like this. You see the checkerboard, you know? So the checkerboard thing, what I did is I just muted the background layer. And so we're in here talking about layers a little bit. So if I make that layer invisible, then we can see that this is going to be see-through behind the lettering. And there's a lot of other cool things you can do in the layers menu. And down here on the layers menu is a little icon that says FX. If I click that, it gives me all these different options. And I told you about pattern overlay, and this is a fun one. So I want to pull this up. And so now we have these little bubbles in the lettering. And I can change that pattern. These are patterns that just come with, oh, there's only 2 of them. So maybe it's not so cool. But once you open this effects menu, there's a lot of other things you can do to the text. Like, well, we can do a gradient instead. And you'll see that as these are checked and unchecked, they're turned off and on. So let's try some of these. First of all, drop shadow, which is very important. And you can see what that did a little bit. It made kind of a grayness around it. And let's go inside drop shadow by clicking on the word drop shadow. And then you've got your parameters that you can change here, like the distance the drop shadow is, and it goes away from the text, or the size of the drop shadow. And then we can also make an inner shadow, and you might not be able to see that very well because it's all black text, but maybe if we change the color of the text, let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to go out of here. Let's change the color of the text. So we go back up here, we change it to like a blue. There we go. And now you can see that inner shadow. So I'm going to bring back, now when you've added these effects, they kind of show up here in the layer. Like I can click on drop shadow here. Well, oh, I can make it invisible. I can turn them off and on. And then the gradient overlay will let us, you know, and that's kind of cool because to do that without using the effects menu would be a little bit harder. And I could show you how, but we can change the colors of this gradient by clicking on here and just clicking on these little squares. And ooh, look, here's some preset gradients. So we can make some rainbow colors. Yeah, that's fun. You do that. And then we went over pattern overlay. Now stroke is going to give you an outline of, it's going to outline the text. So right now it's in color black, and we can change that to red, you know, and you can see that a little bit. We can change that to blue, and then we can make it thicker by changing the size. So the stroke is an outline for the text, and it might be very useful for you so you can see your text over images and stuff if you were going to put it, overlay it over something. So that's good. Let's move on from the text effects and let's do some other stuff with our image. Let's create some shapes and stuff. So to do some shapes, there's actually a shape tool. Let me see where that shape tool is. Sometimes there's other things inside these menus or these tools that they'll open up and show you other things, and I think you have to click the right way. There it is. So this has our brush tool, our pencil tool, color replacement tool, and mixer brush tool. I'm just going to show you brush tool. Okay. So it's not letting me, you see that no symbol? It says no. It's not going to let me draw on this because I'm on the text layer. So what we need to do is just make a new layer. And so to make a new layer over here in the layers menu or window, you can click this little button right here. And if I leave the mouse over it, it tells me create new layer. So yes, that's what I want. There's also other options in here, like you can delete a layer. You can link layers together. You can move a layer, you know, and this will show the top layer, you know, it'll have that overlaid on top of everything. So if you have things underneath those words second Saturday, then they're going to be underneath it unless you move them above it. So if you put, whatever you put on the top layer is going to supersede and be over whatever's underneath it. So we've got layer 1 now, and now we've got our brush tool selected. So it's going to let us draw now. And we can just draw, and we can use, but as we start drawing, it's going to use the color black because that's what we have selected. So I'm going to change the color to a blue. There we go. And then you see that little round dot, that's very small. So as I draw, it's going to give me, what happened to my color? I thought I changed it. Blue. Okay, now it works. Whee! All right. So now you can see this line that I just drew. It's a kind of fuzzy line. It's real thin. We can change that. We can make it look different. And we do that, you know, this menu up here changes depending on what tool you have. So this is now got, you know, it used to have controls for font and font size and centering and all that stuff. And now it shows a brush and it has a little number here, and that's the size. So I don't know what this button is called. I'm going to try and toggle the brush panel. Okay, so this is the brush panel. So they've changed this actually. This is new to me. But the brush panel, this used to be in a different place. But now we can pick one of these brushes, and there's all kinds of fun brushes. There's regular brushes, like this 30 point and this 30 point, and I don't know what that one is. Let's see. Oh, and this is neat. So that creates kind of like a little edge thing, and I kind of like that. I'm gonna underline second Saturday. And those underlines are on this layer 1, and I can make them invisible by doing that. And so, you know, that's the cool thing about layers is, you know, you can discard them. You're not messing up all the stuff you have underneath. You can draw all over. Here, I'll make a new layer where we'll just make a mess. So I'll pick a red, and I can draw all over this thing and make a big mess. But I didn't mess anything up because I can just mute that layer, or delete it. you know, and that's what I'll do. In fact, I'm just going to delete that layer. Delete layer 2, yes. There we go. So now we're back. That's looking pretty sharp. I kind of like it. But I want to show you some of the other effects that you have in your brush, or all the other things that you have in your brush panel. So I'm going to go back to add that layer again so that we can make a mess all over this and not mess anything up. I want to change it to some green here, a deep forest green like that, because I know there's a fun brush in here that you're going to like, and it's this one here. This is like a little grass brush. So if we wanted to make some grass down here, we could just take this grass brush and we can do this. So there we go. So now we have some grass. And then we also have some leaves. So if I grab maybe an orange thing, maybe we're doing a fall motif and we want some orange leaves, we can do this. Well, these are really close. We've got to change some of the aspects of this. We've got to change the spacing, bring the spacing up. That's what we need to do. And now we've got some leaves. Isn't that fun? So you got leaves, and then we can do other kinds of brushes in here. These are fun. And you got stars, you know, but the spacing needs to go up. And you can see this is giving you a little preview of what that's going to do. We can always undo by hitting Command Z, and it'll undo the last thing. And you'll notice that it didn't undo this star here, because every time you lift your mouse button, you hit your mouse button and you make something. If you hit undo, it undoes it. But if you click your mouse button and then click your mouse button again, it's only going to do the last thing, only going to undo the last thing you just did. So we go to history and we bring history up, and there's history. So it shows us everything we've done in this project from when we opened it. So I can go back to that. And when I go back, when I click there, it made my star go away. But I can go all the way back in time to when I made that big mess. And there we're going back in time to where, you know, erasing everything we've done before. But then I'm going to go back to, this is where I want to be, you know. Find out where you want to be in the history layer, and it's unlimited undos. I don't know how far this goes back in, but for here it went all the way back to I think the beginning here where I made the text. So I'm going to go back to, this is where I want to be though. So now we can close history, and you can always get history by going up to window and going to history. So there's a lot of other windows in here. You've got so much. There's the brush window. We've been there. So, you know, if you needed to find it, you can get to it in different ways. You can bring up windows in different ways. Let's move to something different now, because we need to talk about how to select things and stuff like that. So I'm going to grab some shapes. Let's go to shapes. Okay, so this is kind of your object tool. It has where I can make a rectangle, I can make a circle, I can make a polygon, but then this one at the bottom is called custom shape tool. And this is fun because inside here you have your shape here. I can change this to all these different shapes that come with preloaded into Photoshop. Like, I don't know why you would use a scissors, but a light bulb maybe. We put a light bulb here. So it's going to make it in yellow. Make a yellow light bulb right there. There we go, we got a yellow light bulb. We can also hit Command T, which gives us our transform mode, and I think that can be accessed in other ways, but I just know the keyboard shortcut and it's Command T. But let me see. Image transform. It's in edit, I believe. And it's not going to let me do anything. You got to be careful about this mode because it won't let me do anything while I've got that going. Edit transform, free transform path. That's the command that you want to use to get that. And then here I can make it rotate. You see this this little symbol here that has the side arrows is going to give me a rotate. When I click on one of the edges, it gives me the opportunity to resize it, and you'll see that I can resize it along the X and Y axis differently you know, changing the proportions. If I didn't want to change the proportions of it, I just wanted to resize it, I could hold down Shift, and then it's going to resize it evenly, you know, based on both the Y and X vertices. So there we go. We can move the light bulb, we can resize it, we can rotate it, we can do stuff like that. And we can do that with any shape. We can do that with, you know, sometimes you might want to insert a logo. And maybe I have a logo on one of these thumb drives that we can access and bring. This might be important for you guys to know how to bring in other, and you'll see that when I've got this bar or this box around the image like this, I'm not going to be able to do anything else in the program. It's asking me to confirm what I've done basically, and I have to hit the return key and make the box go away before it's going to let me do anything. So that's the thing you got to be aware of, because if you hit that Control T and then I'm trying to do other things, I can't even change the layer. Just be aware of that. That's one thing that could get you stuck in Photoshop is, you know, you're in your free transform tool, but I can't do anything. Why can't I click on anything else? You know, why can't I change tools? I can't change tools. And it's giving me a prompt here asking me, do I want to apply the transformation? And I can either say don't apply or apply. And if I apply it, then the box goes away, and now I can change my layers and I can do all this other stuff. And yeah. So let's go with our background. I want to show you one thing about, there's our background, it's all white. But why don't we make a gradient in the background? And the gradient tool is this one. So there's different forms of gradient. I can do this gradient here that goes back and forth, this circle gradient, and I'll show you what these look like. It looks like that, but we've got yellow and white, so it's hard to see. I'm going to use the preset gradients. So I can use these two colors, my foreground and background color, to make my gradient, or I can go ahead and pick one of these preset gradients, and maybe one that looks like that. So this kind of looks like an alien land or something. Oh, I'm using the diamond gradient, which probably isn't going to be useful for what I was going to do. I'm going to use this one instead, just the regular gradient. The regular gradient will do this to the background. Yeah, so it kind of looks like we have the ground, you know. I'm going to do it, depending on how you draw this line, your gradient is going to end up looking different where you start the line. So that way I got the ground back here, and then I've got the sky. So, and then we can make that invisible again just by doing that. Actually, let's make a giant shape of some kind. So we'll grow our shape tool, change that to maybe a polygon, change the color to make a red polygon, maybe a blue. I'll make a purple one. Purple polygon. There we go. Big polygon. Little. Okay. I'm going to try that again. There we go. We got a polygon. We can move it by clicking this. What is this tool called anyway? The Move tool. That makes sense. So we got the Move tool. We can rotate the polygon by hitting the free transform mode. And this brings up a good point. Right now I can't grab the edges of this free transform mode because it's off the page basically. So I have to change the view and zoom out. Oh, that's just going to change my window. Let's go back to view, fit on screen. This is an important keyboard shortcut to know, and it's the Apple 0. Apple 0 will fit it to the screen. Done. So I hit enter to make the transform take, and now we're going to do some selecting fun. We're going to make, well, let's make a couple of more shapes. I'm going to make another layer, maybe, yeah, let's put it over behind second. Now, if I move this shape to the top, it goes over the words, you know. We went over that a little bit, so I'm going to move it back behind everything. Here is the way to bring in your logo. If you have a logo, you open up the logo like it's a, you know, you're basically opening it like it's another Photoshop document, and now we have two different images open at the same time. And one of them is here, and the other one is there. So there's what we were working on. Here's what we just opened. So basically, I just opened an image file. And now what I want to do is take this and copy it and paste it onto the other one. Apple A to select. Now we've got selection around the whole thing. And then Apple C to copy, and that's also in the edit menu here, copy. We could do it that way. We can go here, and then we can go paste. There it is. So now there's our logo that we inserted into our image. We can move that around by grabbing the Move tool. We can size it by hitting Apple T to go to the transform. I'm going to hold down Shift so that it sizes it uniformly. Each one of these layers can be adjusted for composite mode and opacity. So the opacity, I can turn that down and make that purple polygon see-through a little bit. I can change the, if I didn't want to do it that way, bring the opacity back up, I can also change the blending mode to, every single one of these modes will interact with the things underneath it in different ways. So if I click that one, it does lighten. So now it's interacting with the backgrounds in different ways. If I just wanted to get just that wave, I'd start with doing that, but you'll see that it also selects that. So if we just wanted this wave, and we want the colors to the wave, so I'm going to hold down Shift, add these two colors, let's add this. There we go. But we don't want this part of the imaginary TV here. So I'm going to attempt to deselect that, and this is a good demonstration of how these selection tools will work. So right now I can hold down Shift to add to the selection, but let me show you something else. I can hold down Option, and you see the minus? Now it'll take away from that selection now. So I can't use the magic wand to do this, but there's plenty of other ways to deselect something. And this is the coolest thing about these selection tools is I can use lasso, but if I hold down Option and I get that minus symbol, now I can just take this and circle the part with my mouse that I don't want selected, like this, and go all the way around here till it connects, and boom, we've deselected that. And I can do the same thing with other tools, with other selection tools. I can do it with a shape instead. I can use the elliptical marquee, and I can hold down Shift and Option and get the minus. Now I want to get rid of this part here. There, so right up to that. There. So now we've got that wave selected. I can copy it, and then I can go in here and I can paste it. There's my wave, and then I can size it up if I need to. But if I save this now, if I save it as a PSD, so I'll go ahead and save this as, I'll go to Save As, and then I'm going to put it on my thumb drive here, and I'm going to call it Second Saturday. That's all good. And so right now it's saving it format Photoshop, and that's fine. I want to do that so that if I ever needed to go back into it and adjust the layering and stuff and change it, and once I save it as something else, I'll lose all my layers, So save it as a PSD, but also save it as something else that you can use more easily. Sometimes certain applications don't accept Photoshop. I think Final Cut will, but it'll bring all the layers in. But I'd say a PNG, and I'm going to save it like that. Well, we've already saved this, so I'm gonna just see what it looks like. Let me close down the program, quit Photoshop, and then I'm gonna go into my thumb drive and see what those images look like that we just made. So Second Saturday PNG and Second Saturday PSD. So let's see. There we go. Yeah, it did save the alpha channel, because you can tell because it's gray. And if it had saved it as a white background, this is actually gonna, if we bring this into Final Cut, it would actually show our video where the gray is. So that's good.